Like we should have a cold open. We haven't done that in a while.
We haven't done that in a while.
I don't know what we talk about other than solo.
We could talk about doing a pre-roll in the pre-roll.
That's a little too meta.
Is it?
Yeah, we've done that.
But have we done it in a while?
Not in a while.
Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined Travers and Wells as they try to fight off a Martian invasion in episode number 368. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
I am so excited for this new solo movie.
Solo movie? Who's
Yeah.
getting a solo movie?
Bunch of people I don't recognize and that one guy from Community.
We watched The Dark Tower.
Oh, what did you think?
It was okay. It wasn't great. Once it got to the action, it was really, really entertaining. Unfortunately, it suffers from the, such a rich, dense world that they try to pack into an hour of establishments, and which was kind of interesting and did some interesting things, but overall I was fairly underwhelmed. Other than that, I listened to the 10th Doctor Adventure Series 2, which was quite enjoyable, even with Rose in it. Now, this normally I find Rose a bit obnoxious. She was not at all through any of this. She was a great character in all these stories. They were really well written.
We watched The Cloverfield Paradox on Netflix.
So
the
how
reason
is it?
we're recording late. Thank you guys for the indulgence. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It's I thought it's clever. I thought it was entertaining. It's not the end all be all of sci-fi horror. It works as a standalone movie, and I kind of asked myself afterwards. It was like, would I feel as strongly about? Yeah, I enjoyed that. If it wasn't attached to the name Cloverfield, or would it have suddenly become a very unforgettable, or just, a very forgettable movie? I think it probably still worked, but I think it's definitely stronger being in the Cloverfield universe. Glenn, did you do anything fun?
Yeah.
Other than your snazzy new headphones?
I can't remember what it was. So.
Well, let's move on to some news.
All right.
Our good friends over at Candy Jar Books have announced the next book for the Lucy Wilson mysteries.
Ooh.
Curse of the Mirror Clowns.
Oh, I can't read that one.
Written by Chris Lynch.
There's going to be scary clowns in it. No, man. No.
Now available for pre-order. I'm not going to give any synopsis because I want you to be surprised. And I don't want to give Sean nightmares.
Scary clowns. What more do you need? Does it have a release date tagged along with that?
It does not.
Okay.
However,
Soon.
So apparently March 29th, the Avatars of the Intelligence will be released widespread.
Oh, good.
It's been a very targeted release previously.
Right.
Now it's going to go to the wider public on March 29th.
Oh, good. More people will get a chance to listen to that, or read that.
Yeah. So that's pretty exciting.
And then people that are waiting to listen to our review of it, you'll finally get to listen to our review.
Yeah.
They can listen to it if they take advantage of our new Glenn Reads You Lucy Wilson. It's a pay-per-play service. Just a small donation.
No, it's not.
Glenn will come
No,
to your
it's
house and read you a bedtime story.
Nope.
If you saw our Christmas greetings video, you know this is a thing.
He comes to my house and reads me a bedtime story all the time.
Yep.
In other news,
Do it at my house, but I can't afford the $50 a pop.
Reeltime has announced their next drama release called Anomaly. It's going to come out in November of this year and will star Sophie Aldred, Miles Richardson, Beverly Cressman, and newcomer to the team Tom Chapman. It's going to be a sequel to both Deimos Rising and...
Did you just say Deimos?
Deimos Rising. And the Doctor Who story, The Time Monster. It will also
With,
feature...
Kronos, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It will also feature an adult Gordy Lethbridge-Stewart.
Oh, good. More real time that won't be counted as continuity.
And the November release is multi-region DVD.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because it still can't get downtime in a U.S. release.
Maybe they'll make it available as part of a box set.
That'd be cool.
That would be. So that's a cool little bit of news, and I did not expect a sequel to Time Monster.
No one did.
No one expects the sequel to Time Monster. Nobody.
They should really do a sequel to Time Monster, said no one ever.
Some people like Time Monster.
Baby Benton.
Our last bit is a bit of Goodreads Book Club housekeeping. The book for February has been selected, The Stealers of Dreams. It's a Ninth Doctor and Rose book. And the poll is open for the next book, with 4 different options, including 2 Ninth Doctor, 1 12th, and The Cricket Men.
Why do I know The Cricket Men?
That's
That's
next
a
Douglas
Douglas
Adams one that they're writing.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Doctor Who and the Cricket Men.
Gotcha.
So go on and vote. Tough choices.
Easy choice on that one for me.
You saying I need to put The Cricket Men on the schedule
Yes,
sometime
you do.
soon, Glenn?
But we got to get Pirate Planet out of the way first, too.
We do need
Yeah.
to get Pirate Planet out of the way first.
And we're about to get another slate of Lethbridge-Stewart books, so
Yeah.
we better
We should probably jump on that.
should plan accordingly.
Yes. That's it for news.
So let's move on to our review.
Edward Travers, pulled out of time by a mysterious force, finds himself on a hill with a young man called Herbert George Wells. Together, the men travel across England, intent on discovering where they are. A world distinctly different from the one they know. And yet, for Edward Travers, it is one that seems vaguely familiar. For strange meteor-like objects have landed in the heart of England, and the inhabitants of Earth have found themselves victims of a terrible attack. A ruthless race of Martians, armed with heat rays and poisonous smoke, is intent on destroying everything that stands in its way. Only things have not turned out the way Travers expected, for this is not the War of the Worlds H.G. Wells wrote about, but something much worse.
Wait. Don't yell. Now go.
I don't have a big enough dun-dun-dun for this one.
He dropped the volume and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll drop the mic if you want, but
Yeah, I quite enjoyed this one.
it was great. I'll read it again and again. I liked it better than Cats.
Well, that's not setting the bar very high.
Somebody else go first, because I can talk for
So
an
I
hour.
don't know if I loved it as much as you guys did. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun while reading it, but it just didn't hit me at the same level, I guess.
Why not?
I don't know. Just didn't. I didn't find most of the characters, aside from Georgina and the appearance of Roosevelt, most of the secondary characters were kind of meh for me. I felt like there was a lot of mystery built up around the Major, and he wound up not really... I never felt like I got a payoff on the mystery. He mentions his family's names, but I don't remember... Nothing stuck out like, oh, it's supposed to be this person, and just...
Oh, I didn't even get that at all. I mean, I know he said his kids' names, but his kid and wife, but...
When they introduced him, they made such a mystery of, well, he's just the Major. He doesn't have it. He won't say his name, blah, blah, blah. It made it seem like there was
maybe if we were Brits, maybe it would be... Maybe we would have picked up on something.
I have a theory on that. It's complete bunk, but I have a theory.
What's your theory?
As I was reading, I kind of got the same tingle that I felt like I was supposed to know who the Major was, but I wasn't given quite enough information to really get there. And then as it went on, and they kept describing the differences in this world, and how it was not the H.G. Wells War of the Worlds that Travers was familiar with, and it wasn't the England that either one of them were familiar with, and how humanity had changed, how they had gone to this betray your neighbor, feral kind of, dog-eat-dog society. Something just started tickling the back of my brain. And then Roosevelt showed up and made quite the brouhaha over the fact that Tesla is the one that did the weaponry. And I suddenly thought to myself, this is Inferno Earth. This is what happened, is there was an alien invasion and they had to fight them off. And that's why everybody's so mean and nasty in Inferno, because they survived this back in the 1800s. And the Major is in some way, shape, or form another Lethbridge-Stewart. He's related somehow.
See,
and he's going to become the group captain.
I went one step further. I thought this was the world that was coming to an end, that James and
that works
Stewart
too.
had gone to, that Tesla had made several advances, and you got the impression that something had mucked things up, and the world, the universe was entropying. That was the whole. Remember, they side jumped again in that same book, and you were led to believe that Tesla was quasi-responsible for what was happening to envelop that universe.
I like that even better.
I got the impression that was this universe when they kept name-dropping Tesla. I mean, Tesla's existed in our timeline too, but obviously he didn't make alien weapons. But
but there also wasn't an alien invasion for him to make alien weapons with.
No, there was. We don't know about it because he defeated them.
Maybe I would have enjoyed this book more if I had twinged on the Inferno Earth stuff, because I never did, for whatever reason. And part of me wishes that I feels like they set it up, especially with the way it ends, that hopefully to have more Travers and Wells stories, because we don't really get resolution with the two characters.
well, there's clearly a tie-in to what's her name from Time Lash too.
Right.
Lash.
Yes,
Time Lash as well. So because he saw her as they were being transferred wherever they were going in the book, he saw her.
Do you think that was?
And we had that setup of that short story
That's
where
what I thought
their
it was,
world is falling apart.
I thought it was more tying back to that.
Well,
as
I think it
opposed to
was
looking
because it was
forward.
her contact trying to but in the end of that story, she's trying to contact him,
Right.
and this is where the contact is. But no, that's what I'm saying. I think they're setting up a further arc
Yes,
with
the two of
that.
them.
So I
Yeah.
think we're gonna go
here's
there
the most
eventually.
solid piece of evidence right here. They pulled a Pirates of the Caribbean. When Pirates of the Caribbean was first being advertised, it was Pirates of the Caribbean. And then about 2 weeks before the movie hit theaters, it was suddenly Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. And I went, oh, Disney has enough confidence they're going to make a second one, because there's no reason to put a subtitle on it if you're only going to make the one. This was Travers and Wells. From day one, we talked about it. It's Travers and Wells. Now all of a sudden it's Travers and Wells, Other Wars, Other Worlds. No, subtitle. So we're going to get a second one. That's proof.
It does make me want to read more, wanting to know what exactly happened, if the Inferno Earth stuff is true, if it was just some weird slipstream of the kind of like how Time Lash inspired Time Machine for HG. This is the inspiration for obviously War of the Worlds. It makes me want to.
Sort of what I wonder is if they're going to step through a lot of different scenarios that are the inspiration for H.G. Wells' works, and if we'll see a lot of parallels in the stories that go forward. I loved this book. It was so good. It was a page turner. In fact, I would read it on my lunch break at work and then end up being late back to work because I kept reading. But it was so good, and I love the companionship or the relationship between the chemistry between Travers and Wells. I think it's fantastic. They're perfect contrasts of characters in order to make one solid companionship. I like the Major. I thought I didn't like him because you're not supposed to really like him because he is a bit of that anti-hero. I hesitate to say that, but he's kind of an anti-hero. But he's that gruff, no holds barred kind of person. But I liked that element of this story. It was good, and it also gave somebody to rub up against, Travers the wrong way in a lot of things that he did. Travers taking one view of the world, and the Major taking another view of the world based on his circumstances. I thought Georgina was a very clever character. I like the clever idea of locking away the information in her mind and requiring an alienist to get it out. The hypnosis to unlock what she had seen. I sort of felt that the what she saw wasn't necessarily as big of a deal that needed to be locked away, but it was the MacGuffin of the story that they did have to stop this chemical attack, basically, or bacterial attack that was going to happen, this germ warfare. So it worked for me, but it seemed to, after they unlocked it, I was like, that's it? That seemed kind of...
Well, and as they started to
lackluster.
unlocking it, I thought, are they just revealing what we already learned when they were at the other camp? And I was glad that they went at least with something a little bit different.
Right.
Because for the most part of it, it was very similar to, oh, look, they're sucking blood. And
Well, that was the other thing that I had a problem with is if they were using the humans as a food source, I understand the idea of total conquest by wiping the humans out, but aren't you then cutting off your food supply at the same time? I thought that was an interesting point. But when Roosevelt shows up and the Americans show up, and I thought, we're in a culture and a climate now in history where I think we're looked not so highly from other countries as we used to be. We're not admired as much as we were. Mm-mm. So it's really encouraging to read an author that's written something recently enough that does look at least historically, the big American icons. And while Roosevelt gets, some glory there, he is also driven into retreat. Yeah. And I thought that was an interesting take too, and I was kind of glad for that because it didn't make the Americans show up and just save the day. Oh, Britain's in trouble, we'll save them again. They didn't take that tact, and so I was kind of glad for that.
Yeah.
But I think that he captured the true, at least the icon of character that we are familiar with Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, when he showed up, I fully expected him to steamroll pretty much the rest of the story, and was pleasantly surprised when he did have to go into retreat. It was nice, kind of. Also, that showed a kind of not sensitive, but not gentle,
compassionate.
Well, a flawed side of him, a weakened side of him. The fact that he had to go into retreat,
a humble side.
Yeah, I really like that aspect of it.
There's a lot more good. I can't think of anything right now, though. Oh, my other, and it seems like I come into a piece that I really like, and then I go, okay, now I want to drill down on things I didn't like, and I frequently do that. And I don't like that I do that, but I thought that the end kind of wrapped up a little too quickly for me as well. I wanted a little more of a resolution, especially with the fact that they've gone in to attack this chemical or this bacterial warehouse, or not a warehouse, a factory. That they're going to unleash on the world. And I didn't get a satisfying answer that they had thwarted that problem. I think the other thing
they
that's
at least
left
thwarted that factory.
I think that's the only thing that the other things left hanging is there, and they speculate on what if there are other factories out there that we don't know about. Yeah. And I think that gives you, again, it doesn't, once our heroes escape the situation, it's almost it doesn't really matter now from the narrative because they have got out of there. So it's kind of like Inferno. When you think about it, the demise of that other world, it affects the Doctor because he was there witnessing it and was not able to do anything about it. But on the flip side, it's a complete parallel universe that doesn't affect our world at all, or our characters, or character in that case, that is transported to that world. So I wanted a little bit of at least a satisfaction of leaving that world, realizing that eventually it's going to be safe, but we don't get that, which is okay. But it just seemed to be kind of wrapped up too quickly, and I wanted, and maybe they're laying the mystery for further stories as well. But these crystals, I don't think there was a lot of information, and why this crystal lattice that was there in the first place that powered these crystals and allowed them to transfer too. I don't think that was answered, but maybe we'll get more of that as more of these stories unfold.
I would have loved a small little coda, just a tease of what's to come. If they could have given us, they landed somewhere and oh no, what's happening? That would have been a great cliffhanger to leave on. As it ends, it could be a standalone, and then if that's the case, then there are bigger issues, I think, with the story because it doesn't resolve a lot of those issues.
Yeah.
You want a coda? I'll give you a coda. You ready? The two men looked up. A third walked out of the jungle. "Hello, gentlemen," he said. "My name is Dr. Moreau. Welcome to my island."
Okay.
See,
I'm
now you're
all right
happy. With I don't disagree with Glenn, surprisingly.
Thanks.
I also felt that the ending resolution was just a little shortchanged, partially because with our hero's escape and the very kind of neat way that oh, the crystals are here, the factory is here, yay, we all encompassing, all in one. So now that they've made their escape, as you said, we don't necessarily need to know, did the bomb go off? And it does, and we get a little, extra bit of business there at the end, which I'm kind of torn on, because on the one hand, I'm grateful that we got it so that I know as a reader the bomb went off and that they were ultimately successful. But every other scene in this story took place in the view of either Travers or Wells. They were present for all the other information that we were given.
Right.
And so it seemed a little weird to have that bit at the end where they weren't present for it because they'd already left. But again, as the reader, okay, I'm glad that you gave that to me because I kind of needed that success rate. I also felt underwhelmed with the secret that Georgina was carrying. And, it seemed almost like, okay, so we were traveling, and then this happened, and then my husband comforted me, and then we got to this plant, and they were drinking blood, and they were aliens, and they were horrible. And that was kind of the gist of it. And then it wasn't really until later that it was, oh, no, they're going to wipe us all out. There's a virus. And it's like, you could have cut to the chase, honey, and just kind of given us the important part of it. Because nothing in her recollection really triggered, in my mind, that it was a virus that was being manufactured. I felt like that Travers had pieced that together more from his experience at the thing. Mm-hmm. And then they were all like, oh, yeah, that's what it is. So I'm not quite sure why that was set up the way that it was. But ultimately, there was enough War of the Worlds in it that I didn't care. I was totally enjoying the ride because I love War of the Worlds so much. And I love the tweaks that made it not War of the Worlds, that it was just different enough that even Travers was on his back foot going, well, they should have died by now. What do you mean they're still here? Why is this still a thing? That was really cool. I liked I loved Roosevelt. I love the fact that, the Americans rolled in and we're all like, huzzah, we're going to fix everything. We're going to save the day. And we've established the beachhead and we'll have you guys liberated by tea time tomorrow. And then what do you mean the boats are all on fire? Just, what? So you're right, that humility that he had to display when going, oh, well, okay, let's go get the bodies and get out of Dodge. That was suddenly a thing. If I'm going to nitpick, I didn't like the let's get on a train and travel all the way to thing. It was kind of a neat time-saving device.
That's kind of the thing I liked a lot about it.
I liked the scene, and it was a great time-saving device. But going back to War of the Worlds, that was one of the first things the Martians did. The tripods tore up all the communications lines, and they tore up all the rail yards. Because they're not going to let you have that. So now that you've got a train, it's like, well, okay, cool. And then the tripod starts chasing you. It's like, oh, this is a great sequence. This is, this is intense. Well, uncouple the cars and I'll go fight them off. What?
Oh, I see. I like that. I thought that was kind of a noble end for the Major, especially knowing that he was dying and he was accepting.
It was a noble end, but you're sacrificing one of your two heat rays for what is ultimately going to be a futile act. Just stay on the train.
Just get on the roof and still shoot it.
Yeah.
But
you're a moving target. I mean,
it was okay. But the thing is, it was going to catch up with them anyway. So what they needed,
shoot the legs out
what they needed to do was buy some time. And I mean, even after he started shooting and injuring it, another one still blew up that carriage. So I mean,
there were two.
Yeah, so I think that the idea was to at least distract the two while everybody else could get further up closer, at least advance closer, which I thought was pretty cool too, that they didn't roll the train up to the factory, that they actually dive off of the thing most of the way there. So I thought that was kind of a clever device as well. So
and then the train winds up being sacrificed.
I liked it.
No, like I said, I didn't. It seemed a little weird. But as far as the way it's written, the way it was constructed, everything else, you're right about it being a page turner. This was one that we got dropped right in and just go immediately. And same thing. I would read it at break and maybe take a little longer on break than I probably should have, because it was like, I got to get to, at the very least, I got to get to a stopping point.
Right.
But then I would hit that stopping point and not stop, so it didn't really matter. So yeah, every it sounds like I'm nitpicking or that I didn't like it, and I assure you, everything that
you're doing what I do. You're drilling down because
nitpicks.
everything is so good that there's just a few little things that I have to point to.
So I don't know if this is a compliment or criticism of the book. There were a lot of times where I forgot it was a period set story. Aside from, like, obviously Roosevelt being... There was a lot of times while reading it that I didn't think, well, why don't you just do this? Oh, wait, they don't have that technology. The time frame didn't even cross my mind of when this is set.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I'd have small little reminders of, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, it's set in the 1898 or whatever.
Yeah, 1899, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it was a year after Herbert left.
Right.
Part of that might be from an American sensibility that all of the versions of War of the Worlds, other than the book, all the ones that we've had that we've been exposed to haven't really been time period appropriate.
Right.
Because, I mean, the film was set in the 50s, and then the remake was set in the 2000s, and there's a lot
radio
of
play is set present day,
Yeah.
in the 30s.
Yeah, there's a lot of different versions out there, and
I think
one really badly done movie version that is period appropriate. But
I think one of the things about it is because it's so far into the invasion that it's so much devastation, the year is irrelevant. Most technology isn't working anyways because of the Martian attacks. So it just becomes a moot point for the most of the story.
yeah, that's true.
And I think that's probably a benefit to the story. Whereas others, you can kind of start nitpicking of, well, why don't you just do this?
Except for when Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders come in
Right.
and they're firing heat ray weapons of their own, and then you're like, what? This seems weird. And then, of course, the explanation is a well payoff. That,
Yes.
Well, we've got Tesla on our side. So I did like by the way, speaking of other versions, I did like the Grover's Mill name drop.
I squeaked a little bit.
Just a lot of good stuff in it. It doesn't give you much time to breathe. Even when our heroes get some downtime, there's just enough time to advance some exposition, and then we're moving on to the next big, epic sequence of something happening.
Yeah.
And while I felt like it could fall down on the side of there's a lot of capture and escape, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of capture and escape.
No,
It feels like a lot of close calls and a lot of near misses. And in fact, one of the other things that I thought maybe was left out that I don't think it needed or was missing was Travers and Wells enters the particular tripod that's downed, and they observe what the video imagery that had happened on the Martian planet, and that kind of feels us the reader in as well as why the Martians have come to this point. And I kind of felt that Travers held that information a little too close to his chest most of the time, too, when they were trying to discover what the ultimate conquest is. And it does pay off that Travers realizes, oh, I know where we're going with this. It's total annihilation after they do the interrogation with the... So him having that realization, having seen that in the... having seen what he saw, it wasn't necessarily exactly that, but it was what was the conquest of Mars. Or I suppose the breakdown and deterioration or overuse of Mars, but seeing that and realizing it helps connect the dots a little better. That he comes to that conclusion, that he doesn't jump to that conclusion, that he comes to that conclusion based on the evidence. So that was pretty cool. The other thing that I felt, it just went out of my head. There was another. Oh, no, this wasn't another thing that I disliked. I really liked the fact that at the same time that they're in there observing the things that are going on in the tripod, the others are being captured and taken away, and Travers and Wells, launching a rescue mission in order to rescue them. I thought that was really, really neat, really intense too. So that was a good moment.
Well, like you said, it feels like in some ways it's a lot of capture and escape, but I think the difference with this one is that it's not.
I don't think it feels like it. I think it could be made, but I don't think it does.
I think the argument for me is that while yes, there is capture and escape here, they don't spend enough time captured necessarily for it to really count as a capture.
Right.
And the escape is done, and it gives Travers and Wells an opportunity to kind of bond and come together. So that when you start at the beginning of the book and Travers is being maybe a little unnecessarily
brash
and poke the bear with a stick, even though that's his character, that by the end of the story, when he says there's nobody I'd rather be on this journey with, and you kind of get the sensation that he's not just blowing smoke, that he really has come to appreciate Wells, and that Wells goes through his arc of being the idealist and the dreamer and the perfect utopia that you get from his books, to having taken a life and kind of being down in the trenches a little bit, that he's come to accept and appreciate life a little more as it is than maybe where he was at. So I thought that was really a nice payoff.
Yeah, another thing
to put that in the trappings of this capture.
The thing that sort of bridges that is especially when Wells is forced to set off one of the bombs, and he comes back and he's truly affected by that because he has taken some lives, and for Travers to recognize and have compassion for him for going through that moment when the majors pretty much are, what's up with him? What's his problem? That was kind of cool too. It was a nice moment where a bridging that they're really coming to understand each other to that point where he says I would rather not. I would. There was no one else I'd rather have by my side. So I like that.
I also really liked Wells's and Georgina's relationship, the friendship they develop, and the fact that they don't actually go to the level of romantic aspect of it.
I thought they were going that
I thought they were
direction.
too,
That was what it
but
felt
I was
like
so
they
glad
were
they
bound,
didn't. Because,
especially on the heels of the fact that she just lost her husband.
Yes. And the fact that they actually, once they start kind of getting there, it immediately shifts, and Wells starts talking about the husband. I thought that was a fantastic respect for the character.
The other thing I think does well is it telegraphs that Crompton and her probably would eventually end up together too. It paints these little moments.
That's where I thought
just
they were
small
going with
ones that they're going to that relationship is going to end up evolving and blossoming as well. So I think it was nice to at least give us the little nuggets for us to jump to that conclusion that eventually they might end up together. So.
Right, and it wasn't heavy-handed. It was just kind of put out there.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the other, going back to what you had said about the vision in The Martian Machine, it was cleverly written in a way that, I don't know if you guys thought this at all, the descriptions about the Martian tripods and we're fighting off the Advance and, it's a war of this, in my mind, it never was necessarily another faction of Martians that were fighting it. It could have been interpreted that way, but to me, it felt almost more like the Ice Warriors just pushed them off Mars. Like, we're done fighting with you guys. Get out. And he never came out and said it. Never came out and said, this is what's happening. But being from the Doctor Who universe, there are still Martians on Mars. Yeah. It's not these Martians. And so, I don't know why, but my brain latched onto that idea that the Ice Warriors won the Battle of Mars and forced the Martians off. And suddenly that just gave this extra little bit of tapestry to the proceedings. I was like, yeah, this is so cool.
I kind of had the same inkling.
Did you?
While reading that sequence, yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that I just really appreciate about this novella is the things that are not said are just as impactful as the things that are.
I like how it turns the resolution of the book, of H.G. Wells' book, on its head, so that the threat of a biological weapon is on the humans.
Yes.
Whereas in the book, the biological weapon ends up being the refuge of the Earthlings in order to drive the Martians off or kill the Martians. So I thought that was kind of cool how they kind of flipped that, and you can imagine that Wells maybe because he wanted a
happy
ending for his book when he writes it, kind of changes that, and that's the reason why he goes that way with it. So.
Yeah.
I did expect Wells or Travers to say, "Well, this is how we beat them." I've read the book, but I'm glad they didn't go that way.
But I do like the fact that he confides in Wells of, you write this book and this is what's been happening, and the fact that he doesn't have all the answers for him, but he at least doesn't withhold that the entire time.
Right.
He actually He doesn't do the stupid thing of, and he actually communicates like most characters don't do these days.
Well, it gives it an air of believability.
Yeah.
That for all of his being a man of his learning, that Travers is not. That's the word I'm looking for. Selfish, I guess, enough to hold on to that information. I mean, some things he's going to play close to the vest, even with HG. But then other things he's like, nah, you need to know this.
Yeah.
It's just quality from top to bottom.
It is quality. It's a great book, and I'm looking forward to more adventures with Travers and Wells.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to the author, which name escapes me, so help me out here.
Robert Mamone.
Mamone. Yeah, so kudos to him because he's written to me, one of the best books I've read in a few years. So, novella. All right, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule, we have some very exciting things. This week on the podcast, we are going back into Big Finish land.
Release number 102, The Mind's Eye.
That's the one. It's the twofer.
Yes.
The Mind's Eye and the Mission of the Bavarians. Is that how we think that one's pronounced?
Virens?
Virens. VIY.
Virens. We've had Virens in Doctor Who before, haven't we?
Have we? What are the Virens?
I can't remember, but the name sounds familiar.
Well, it'll be new to me. Big Finish 102, Mind's Eye and Mission of the Virens. And then the following episode is the 8th Doctor Adventures Season 3, Number 4, Where in Dawn from Big Finish, along with the 12th Doctor comics from Titan in their Year 3, Number 5 through 7. And then the following episode, which will finish off February, I think this is still on the docket, right, Glenn, based on your plans that are coming up? Is that to the end of February?
No, that's mid-March.
Mid-March, okay. Then yes, this
we're
is
still good.
Still good for that. Some more Brigadier talk. We're going to take a look at the Liberty Hall, which is a short film interview that can be found as a bonus feature on Modwin Undead. So if you have a copy of Modwin Undead at home, you're going to want to pull this out. They did basically a in-character interview with Nicholas Courtney as the Brig. We thought we'd take a look at that, along with the Candy Jar Books release, the Lethbridge-Stewart quiz book. So you get a double helping of the Brigadier. And then some fun things coming in March. So,
very good. Keith, if people want to send us feedback, how do they do that?
They should go to our website, travelingthevortex.com, and fill out the Send Us Feedback tab. Or, of course, reach out to us on any form of social media.
And, of course, if you want to help support us, you can do so on Patreon. And thank you to those who already support us. There is a link on our website. Anything else we need to do before we close this show out? If that's going to do it, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.